All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Declare that carried. You're in the chair.
Thanks, Ben.
And we can sack you if you don't do a good job.
Start the meeting. I'll start with an acknowledgement to country. In recognition of the deep history and culture of this place, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which the city of Hobart was built. I acknowledge the determination and resilience of the Palawa people of Tasmania who have survived invasion and dispossession and continue to maintain their culture, identity and rights. I recognise the value of continuing Aboriginal knowledge and cultural practice and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. We'll just start with apologies. Tonight we have an apology from Councillor Posselt and Councillor Coates, and we also have a leave of absence from Councillor Dutta. Could I just have a confirmation of minutes, please?
So moved.
Councillor Harvey. Consideration of supplementary items.
Need to put the minutes. Did you put the minutes?
Vote on the minutes, sorry.
All those in favour? Aye.
Against? No. Carried unanimous. Thank you. Number 2, consideration of supplementary items. There are none. Being none, indications of pecuniary and conflicts of interest. Are there any? Being none, we'll move on to number 4, transfer of agenda items. Somebody like to transfer an agenda item? Yes, Councillor
quite a few people in the
Lohberger.
crowd here, and I believe a lot of them are here for the Argyle Street building. Can we pull that one forward?
I think that's the first item anyway.
Fantastic. Right. Excellent.
Thank you. Are there any other items that councillors or aldermen wish to transfer? No, being none, we'll move on to number 5, planning authority items, consideration of items with deputations. And we have a deputation list and tonight at the planning committee. Can I have somebody move that? Thank you very much. And we're moving to committee acting as a planning authority. Thank you very much. So item 6.2.2, 210 Argyle Street, which is the communal residence. We have a representative, which is Judy Pye. Thank you very much, Judy. If you could come to the front of the table, please. You'll have 5 minutes. With the mic, you can sit at the chair if you like, with the mic there in front of you. You have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know 30 seconds.
Can you hear me? Great.
Yes,
Firstly, Council, thank you for the opportunity to put my deputation forward. I'm a resident in the nearby precinct. It doesn't impact me directly on either side, but I'm across from it. In principle, we don't object to redevelopment of existing buildings because we understand and are fully empathetic with the housing crisis. What we do ask, though, is that any construction is within the existing footprint of those commercial buildings and that they actually observe Council's own height policy. And we believe in this case that it actually is above the recognised and approved existing height policy. We are concerned about transparency because we know that one proposal was already put in and then withdrawn, re-wordsmithed, and the same thing put back in, just with the different wordsmithing. If the proposal in its current state and the height of it gets through, we are deeply concerned it sets a precedent. As we said, we understand housing crisis and Council's willingness and wanting to build homes, but we just ask that they are sympathetic to what's around in the streetscape. We ask that the protocols and heights are observed, and we ask that neighbours and people that are impacted are consulted and have visibility. So we want to have a voice. As I said, we're pro the development. We understand the housing crisis and pressures. We just want it to be sympathetic to the streetscape. We want it to be within the height restrictions, and I guess that is my absolute main points. I've written previously and asked that a green overlay be applied to certain developments, particularly when they have been commercial in the past. We want them to look like they belong in the streetscape, and the greening overlay is part of that. I also ask that we observe the parking. I think there was an amount of about 21 parking spaces allocated when there's the capacity, including support staff, is going to be far, far greater than that. The roads that it leads onto are corridors to the main highway, and therefore parking on the streets is farcical, because that's what the developer suggested. Visitors can park on the street and the overcapacity can park on the street. Let me tell you, there just isn't any. They are feeder corridors to the Brooker Highway. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Appreciate being kept transparent on all matters proceeding in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate that. Are there any questions? Sorry, if you could just remain for a moment. Yes. Councillor Lohberger and then Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Just through you, you spoke about height at the beginning of your contribution.
Yes.
What height would you see as acceptable?
Okay, so council's planning limits are 4-storey. From the sketches, it looks like 6 stories. One of the contentions, I guess, is that the elevation of the hill that it's built into, the way that's been presented takes advantage of that elevation. Clearly, from the other side of Argyle Street and Church Street, looking over, it's going to create a shade sail onto Warwick. And I personally know that people that live in the area, they have solar, so future energy will be impacted. They grow their own food source. That shade sail is going to impact to their food source.
Thank you, Chair.
Lord Mayor.
Clarity, so the shade sail is a rooftop feature, is it?
No, it's just the shade that will be, because of the light not being able to get in, that is currently there. So the extension of the proposed building is above the roof line of existing properties nearby, hence creating a shade sail. A shade sail, yes.
Yeah.
Overshadowing, yes.
Also, you mentioned that you were interested in the greening of the building, or greening around the building. What do you sort of envisage there, and what are your...
I just envisage that it has been a commercial property, I understand, but when we are turning it into a residential zone, it should be treed, and there should be a percentage of the land allocated to greening and to blending in. Yes. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? No? Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Really
Thank you for your
appreciate
time,
it.
everyone.
Thank you. And the next representative that we have is Helene Cherney. Thank you very much for that. Helene Cherney, thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity for me to talk this evening. Good evening. My name is Helene Cherney. I'm a ratepayer and I have been living at 51 Warwick Street since 1999. I'm very fond and proud of the area in which I reside. Although not opposed to the development, I am extremely concerned about the proposed development at 212 Argyle Street, North Hobart. In the first instance, it is clearly evident that the proposal contravenes council's height controls and seemingly does not meet performance criteria. My concern is that approval of this development will set a precedent for future developments exceeding the current height controls. I am strongly objecting to this 6-storey monstrosity. The City of Hobart plan states one is only allowed to develop a 4-storey development, see clause 23.4.1, which stipulates height limits. The proposal does not comply with A or B, therefore this must be considered under the P1 performance criteria. This building has elevated decks which will overlook adjoining residential properties. This visual impact would also appear to be unreasonable. A huge apartment block of 6 storeys directly adjacent to 1- and 2-storey houses. Elevation drawings shows the building sits well above everything else in the area. Everything appears to be 1 or 2 storeys only. This proposal doesn't fit in the area. Shadowing. I will definitely lose my amenities. It is imperative that I maintain my natural light for all my rooms of living and my garden. That is my vocation as gardener, grower of produce. The stealing of the sun will take away my livelihood, including my food security. My home plan is documented in the overshadowing DA 7.00 and the diagram that is not complete and not showing full extent of shadows in winter. I have requested clarification 3 times to no avail, so I'm asking why. My home is also documented on page 79 and it is a relevant image and it makes no sense. The development is also a horrific invasion of my privacy. Vehicle access and car parking in this area is already an issue. I cannot even park outside or near my home. The proposed development does not have spaces for parking for all the residents and the staff. There will be an overload of traffic without even considering those who have professional businesses next door and beyond and parking for their customers. Planning drawings are extremely vague. Woven mesh walls, steel mesh, what colour, what type of perforation. I'd like to know what type of perforation, what transparency it will be, recessive, where are the enclosures, breezeways, mesh and balustrades. Applying to this 4-storey opposed to a 6-storey is a big difference, so I need some clarification on that. Rooftop gardens usually have to have heavier footings. Do these footings of this development have the capacity to, in the future, have added storeys? As stated in a national planning document, well-designed low housing and mid-rise housing projects contribute positively to neighbourhood character and streetscape. They have a built form, scale and density suited to their context. They sensitively consider amenity that includes shadow, neighbours and privacy. It doesn't happen often, but when old and new architecture are joined in a thoughtful manner, the results can be dazzling. Unfortunately, I don't feel in this case. I am firmly in opposition in a 6-storey developer, keep it 4. That's all I request. It's a great project, but keep it at 4 storeys, that's all. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much for your time. Do we have any questions?
I would like to ask one, Ms. Cherney. Thank you for coming in. I'm just interested in the overshadowing of your garden. So you grow food for yourself in the back garden?
And also I keep it as my vocation, so I grow for, even for charities. If I have too much, I give to charity. That's what I do.
And do you know how much overshadowing you're going to suffer, or is the paperwork not?
Well, this is the problem. They haven't actually specified in the actual plans. It's not complete, but I will be having overshadowing, and to me that's really important.
I'll follow that up later with the staff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Are there any further questions? No, being none, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next representative we have is Linda Freedom. Once again, you shall have 5 minutes, and I shall let you know 30 seconds prior to the time being over. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My partner, Stuart Houghton, and I have been living in our 1860s cottage at 208 Argyle Street for over 30 years. In 1993, we applied for and received approval from the Hobart City Council to build a design studio workshop on the site and remain living in the cottage. Over the last 32 years, we have used the workshop to produce numerous pieces of bespoke furniture for local, national and international clients, and we have also worked on a number of public art and private art projects for and with other designers, artists and architects. By being engaged in the creative industries and living on the same site, we have in fact been fulfilling several of the precinct objectives for the Innovation Precinct as outlined in the 2023 Central Hobart Structure Plan. We now find that we're about to lose all of our amenity that we have enjoyed over the last 3 decades in terms of sunshine and views of the sky from our courtyard and our house due to the erection of a 6-storey building right on our northwestern boundary, which clearly does not comply with the planning scheme in terms of height, setback and compatibility. A building that ironically trumpets its own biophilic principles in terms of providing maximum views, natural light and amenity for its residents while compromising ours. Our amenity is of so little consequence to the architects of the proposed building that they haven't even included our dwelling on the overshadowing diagrams, although they do show how our solar panels will be severely affected on the roof of our workshop. The 2023 Central Hobart Structure Plan states that buildings should incorporate side and rear setbacks to provide sufficient distance between buildings to allow equitable access to sunlight and daylight to windows and habitable rooms of existing buildings and to future development on adjoining sites. There is no transition or setback on our northwestern boundary, and our home and workshop will be severely overshadowed by a dark brown wall that towers over 16 metres above our ground level. I do not understand why our current residents in a commercial zone appears to have no rights to amenity in terms of sunshine and daylight, while a new residence in a commercial zone must provide it. The Planning Committee report dismisses the need for the proposed building to adhere to the current height limit of 15 metres and provide a transition in height with the entirely speculative premise that there is a reasonable future likelihood of similar redevelopment in the area. I cannot speak for our neighbours, but we do not have any plans to develop our property, and we would like to continue to live and work here. In addition, the land sizes of ours and most of the other properties in the area would make a similar development unlikely. The lack of parking for the building's residents and staff is also a major concern. The Planning Committee report dismisses this, stating that there is, I quote, a relatively large supply of on-street parking. As a resident, I would disagree with that assessment, particularly during business hours. The on-street parking is already insufficient for the area, with customers of the businesses in the area, including St Vincent de Paul, frequently parking in our driveway, as there is no other parking available. Where are the visitors to the residents in the building to park? Their friends, their relatives, their external healthcare workers, carers, NDIS support workers, where? I do not disagree with the need for more social housing within Hobart, or even for the use of this site for that purpose. However, the proposed building is not the right building solution for the site. It is impossible to argue that is in harmony and broad correspondence with the current streetscape. Examples in the Planning Committee report of high and low buildings that compatibly exist refer to buildings of lower height than the proposed building with lesser height differences with their neighbours.
You have 30 seconds.
Although the Planning Committee report suggests that the Urban Design Advisory Panel was broadly supportive, they were in fact critical of many of the features of the proposed building, suggesting there should have been more consultation with experienced professionals at an early stage, and I concur with their assessment. The building is over height, visually prominent, incompatible and unsympathetic to the area and its neighbours, and should not be approved as it is currently proposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, did the architects have much consultation with you? So they didn't come, no letters, no door knocking, nothing?
No, nothing.
Yeah.
We attended a briefing where they just presented it to us in December, but we were not consulted in any way as to what our needs were.
Ask, so if the building was 4 stories, all of those issues would still be, because you're so close, there'd still be a problem.
It would still be a problem. I mean, it'd be less of a problem, but
Wall and the overshadowing.
yeah, it's still going to be a problem, but it would be less of a problem. Yeah. But I don't think, as I said, the building is a great solution for the site. I think that could be a better solution. And I note that the architects, as I said, the urban design panel said there should have been more consultation with them. But lower height would be better than where it's currently situated. Much.
Are there any further questions? Thank you very much for your time. And our next representative is Stuart Holton. You have 5 minutes and I will let you know when you're 30 seconds. Thank you.
My name is Stuart Houghton. I'm one of the owners and occupants of 208 Argyle Street, North Hobart. We are the next door neighbours of St Vincent de Paul at 210 218. I purchased 208 Argyle Street in 1991 specifically because the then zoning scheme permitted workshops and studios like the one we have constructed on that site in 1993. We have lived and operated from this site ever since. I intend to continue to live and operate from the workshop into the foreseeable future, although I believe that the proposed development may compromise this. I will outline some of my reasons for this. There is insufficient time allotted to articulate all of them. The central courtyard in the proposed St Vincent developments relies on 3 openings in the external walls for ventilation, 2 of which open from the boundary of adjacent properties. If, as is pointed out on page 30 of the delegated report, there is a probable future multi-storey development on the properties at 208 and 220 Argyle Street, these 2 openings would be covered over and rendered ineffective. This seems a design flaw with serious future consequences for the development. This is not, however, our problem. It is the immediate impact of the opening that is situated above our property which is of great concern to us. We have operated our design studio at 208 since 1993. The workshop is fully equipped with industrial woodworking and metalworking equipment. This equipment is inherently noisy. We also conduct some noisy activities outside in our backyard, such as angle grinding and welding, as they are incompatible with our activities inside the studio. St Vincent's and the architects are well aware of our studio and what we do. Our studio is described as a joinery workshop on page 4 of the architect's proposal. The proposed ventilation opening above our yard is about 5 metres from the doorway of our studio and directly above our courtyard. We are very concerned that our noise will have a detrimental effect on the residents of the proposed development and will lead to complaints and efforts to close us down. These openings, which are on every level, will also have a strong negative impact on the privacy of our courtyard and house as they look directly onto us. Apparently, because we are classified as commercial, we have no right to protection of our privacy. We are still human though. The proposed solution offered by the architects to the access from Argyle Street is a solution that suits St Vincent's needs but does not suit the other 5 titles that have right of access over the existing right of way. The solution offered tries to cram 2 lanes of driveway, a loading zone and a pedestrian footpath into a space that is too constricted. This is achieved by narrowing the existing driveway from 3.2 to 2.7 metres, creating a second lane of the same width, a loading zone that is 2.84 metres wide and a footpath of 1 metre. In particular, we in the fiberglass shop at 202, 204 Argyle Street have deliveries and pickups in large trucks. These trucks struggle with the existing driveway. They are forced to back in as there's no room to turn around. They will not be able to back into a narrower driveway. The proposal also includes queuing spaces in the driveway to allow cars waiting to enter St Vincent's car park to wait before entering the car park. There is no detail about how long cars may queue there while awaiting a car space to become available. This would limit our and other right-of-way users' access to our properties. The queuing spaces block the goods entrance of the fiberglass shop. There is no way for cars entering St Vincent's Argyle Street car park to know if there is a parking space available before entering. I believe there is insufficient room in the car park for cars to turn around in the car park if there is not a parking space available. They would then have to reverse out. The loading zone proposed is 2.84 metres wide. In their own documents, St Vincent's own truck is said to be 2.7 metres wide, according to proposal, allowing only 140 mils of clearance. I do not see how this meets any standard. When this vehicle is in the loading bay, it will either block the pedestrian access or constrict the already too narrow driveway. There is also no footpath for 206 and 208 Argyle Street, which means we would have to walk up the driveway amongst the cars. Another concern relating to this car park is that vehicles entering the car park at night or dropping off residents will shine their headlights directly onto our bedroom window. We're also concerned by the noise of the roller door, which is located only a few metres from our bedroom.
That's
Roller
30
doors
seconds
are inherently
remaining.
noisy. The planning report points out that the driveway proposal will require, quote, will require agreements from the adjoining landowner or SIC future modification of our rights of way. This is not a matter of planning assessment and will be the responsibility of the applicant, page 45. There has not been to date any attempt by either the architects or St Vincent's to negotiate over the laneway. Given our and the fiberglass's misgivings, I suggest that a different design solution is required.
That is time. Thank you very much.
I do not see how a proposal can be approved until this is resolved.
Very much. Are there any questions? Yes, Lord Mayor.
I've just got a question about the driveway issues. That obviously was a big thing that you raised. Do you see a way to resolve that or make it more?
Yes, the driveway, we can't live with a narrower driveway. Something has to go. There's 4 things crammed into it: a footpath, a loading zone and two-way driveway. Something has to go. There's just not enough width.
So, but if, given it's a laneway and you've got big trucks, they can go into the, you know, it's not like it's a road where you've got to maintain the 2 ways, do you? Like you can, sometimes when you get to a narrow street, people wait while the sort of other vehicle comes through.
How long would that be justified for? Is trucks take some time to be unloaded?
Yeah.
We're trying to run a business, you know. Yeah.
Sorry. Thank you. Are there any further questions? No?
Oh, sorry. I think there was just, so currently there's a turning circle that...
No, trucks have to back in and out. I even back a ute in and out because there's not enough room to turn around. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our final representative is Amanda Parsons from Divine. And likewise, you have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know when you have 30 seconds
Okay,
remaining.
thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Amanda Parsons. I'm the owner of the Fiberglass Shop, a business that's thrived for almost 30 years at 202 to 204 Argyle Street next to St Vincent de Paul. My superannuation fund owns the property and also the residential cottage at 206 Argyle Street, which is directly behind the Fiberglass Shop. I support the need for additional housing out in our community, but I have reservations about some aspects of the current proposal. First, the proposed building greatly exceeds the traditional height limits of our neighbourhood. This is not a matter of aesthetics, it's about maintaining the character, or not just aesthetics, it's about maintaining the character of our area, which features lower rise buildings. The planning notes suggest that similar redevelopments may occur in the future, yet this does not reflect the current reality or plans of most property owners, including myself with 2 titles in the vicinity. Concerning parking, the situation is already dire. As a business owner, I observe daily the challenges our customers face finding parking. The proposal is to provide only 23 on-site parking spaces. This is 6 more than is currently provided with, and these are almost always occupied. Along with St Vincent's existing busy retail outlet, which places the largest demand on of all businesses in the area on parking, and the support services. 38 new residential units will be added. The on-site parking allowance is inadequate. This planned under-provisioning will undoubtedly exacerbate the already strained parking situation, making it difficult for customers who rely on vehicular access to businesses like mine for picking up bulky items. Additionally, the proposed changes to the entry and exit points on Argyle Street are highly problematic. I noted when reading the documentation that the Urban Design Advisory Panel were of the opinion that the Argyle Street interface would be crucial to the success of the scheme. The fiberglass shop relies on a large access door and the adjacent right-of-way for the delivery and dispatch of bulky goods. Trucks pull in here and a forklift is used to load and unload from this door. The developers plan to narrow this right-of-way, which needs to accommodate these trucks, and also they plan to create a holding bay, not to the side, but in the right-of-way, directly in front of our access door. This is for vehicles waiting to enter the St Vincent's on-side parking and is impractical. The door to the development's parking is only 1 car wide, so entry and exit can't occur concurrently. This plan would likely cause traffic delays on Argyle Street and severely hamper our operations. According to notes, the council's development engineers have found the proposed arrangement is supportable. The changes being sought according to the planning notes will be the responsibility for the applicant to negotiate. I find it most concerning that such a major development on a major arterial route does not have the access sorted prior to planning approval. I also find it concerning that it's left as the responsibility of the applicant, given to date the applicant's lack of consultation with stakeholders. Surely this new development should not interfere negatively with the running of an existing business. To conclude, whilst the need for new housing is clear and urgent, the current proposal needs significant adjustments. It is crucial that any development respects the character and needs of the existing community and its businesses. We need a plan that adequately addresses issues of
30
scale,
seconds remaining,
parking provision and access, ensuring that it supports both new and existing residents and businesses without sacrificing the functionality and character of our neighbourhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Lohberger and then the Lord Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, thank you for coming in, Ms Parsons. I guess the main question I'd like to ask is, would a reduction in the height of the building down to 4 storeys, would that make it more palatable for you?
Yes, certainly. It would be, but But I guess what really would make it more palatable to me overall is providing more on-site parking. But yes, 4 storeys is better than 6, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Lord Mayor, you had a question?
Yeah, so just, I just was clarifying because I think you said on street, so there's going to be 26 spaces off street?
Yes, sorry, that's, yes, I meant on site.
Right.
Yeah, yes. Or maybe 23, I said.
Okay.
23 on-site parking spaces, which is my calculation, and I can't guarantee that's exactly correct, and which is 6 more than is currently provided.
Have you got off-street parking for your business?
No. I'd love to have,
yeah,
but I have
not.
The building takes the whole title. Yeah, I have got that cottage behind that, But the only way to do it there would be to knock down the cottage, yeah. And then there would be more vehicles using that right of way.
And opposite you, there's a, or opposite around there, there's a sort of derelict block of land next to the other second-hand shop, I think, or is that no? That's
It's the next block
Yeah.
down, that one. I know the piece of land that you're talking about. Yeah, it's a block down. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? No? Thank you very much for your time. We shall now hear from the applicant, Siobhan Finanston from Faction Consulting and Jonathan Armstrong from Amelie Housing. Thank you very much. And likewise, you shall have 5 minutes, and I'll let you know 30 seconds prior. Thank you.
Lovely. Good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to represent St Vincent de Paul and Amelie Housing on this project, and thank you all for your comments as well. They have been. I just want to start with change is hard, especially for a community that hasn't had a lot of development over the last 10 years. It is a challenge for all of us, and trying to knit that together is never easy. So we do take the comments on board. I wanted to start with, I guess, the reason for this project. It is a community housing project. It is looking to service women over 55 years of age, which have come on tough times. Amelie Housing and St Vincent de Paul, there's Bethlehem House in Hobart, and for those of you who aren't familiar, I just wanted to share a story from a resident from there and the benefits that these projects do provide at a human level. So James arrived at Bethlehem House in a really bad way. James' mental health was very poor. He was depressed and had been socially isolated for a considerable period of time. He'd experienced a heart attack about 6 months before entering Beth House, so physically he was not good. He had lost most of his wealth. His family connections were virtually non-existent. We arranged counselling immediately and worked on developing a plan to stabilise his life and prepare an independence. James was a quiet man, but did enjoy conversations with other men. The communal nature of Beth House enabled interaction with other men. Over the course of about 6 months, James turned his life around with the case management team. He has worked on overcoming depression, gaining confidence around others and seeing his health stabilise. With the help of Homes Tasmania, they found him a small unit in Taroona that was affordable, and he left the service with a smile and a grateful heart. I wanted to point out that the top level of this project is community space, and it is designed so that it does provide privacy to the surrounding neighbourhood. It's orientated so that it doesn't overlook directly into people's backyards to maintain that existing privacy that they enjoy. The importance of this space on that top level is just, it's without words. Providing that space for people to come together and support each other and to move into better places is just absolutely, imperative. The height of the project is obviously something that has come up multiple times this evening. It's always hard being one of the first in a new area. The height is high compared to what is existing around. It's difficult, as it has been raised, to knit the old and the new together, and sometimes it's achieved well, sometimes it's subjective. We all look at design with a different lens, and so we won't satisfy everybody's thoughts in that regard. The other consideration I just wanted to raise in regard to the cost of construction, it's no secret the cost of construction has escalated significantly since before COVID, making a lot of projects really, really difficult to get off the ground and feasible. So the actual scale of this building is at an equilibrium. At a 4-storey, it becomes extremely compromised to provide this and the amenities for those residents. So I just wanted to raise that. I think that's all the comment I'm going to make at this point, and I'm just going to pass over to Jonathan. Jonathan works in the operations side, so.
Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. Look, Amelie Housing is a registered Tier 1 community housing provider, and we operate across multiple jurisdictions in Australia. And the opportunity to work here in Tasmania with St Vincent de Paul is exciting for us, and we're extremely proud to be presenting this opportunity. And across Australia, we look to restore the hope, and there's no disputing the fact that women over the age of 55 are the biggest at-risk cohort at the moment for homelessness, and what we're doing is creating a safe space. Now, in our developments across Australia, we've worked with the residents, we've worked with the neighbourhoods, and we understand the importance to create a safe space for not only the residents of our site, but also for the neighbouring properties. And there's no doubt that the community garden area will allow the residents to thrive in this community. So that's something that we're extremely proud of. And knowing the fact that it doesn't infringe on the neighbouring properties because of its orientation is something that needs to be considered around the height. The car parking has been brought up several times tonight, and across our developments throughout Australia, we know that car parking is reduced, and that residents often don't have
There's
car
30
park.
seconds remaining.
Often don't have cars when amenities are so close to their developments. There is GPs close by, there's schools, there's shopping centres, and we know that when these things are close by, then residents generally don't have cars. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, Councillor Harvey. And
You mentioned working with the locals. What engagement have you had with the locals on this project?
Yes, certainly. The architects, Dan and Hugh McGuire and Devine, have engaged with multiple of the surrounding residents, and I could produce a list, I just don't have it with me, of actually touch points with each of those residents. So it has occurred regularly. It's been extensive. So whilst they don't get to design the project, they're not architects, they have been very versed and aware of what the project is.
All right. Could you explain the footprint for me? Are you building right on the boundaries of your neighbours?
Yeah, so there is a boundary alignment to some portions of the project. It sits over the existing footprint as well. There's a setback from Argyle Street sympathetic to the streetscape to try and maintain that, which is what council had requested.
All right, but if a neighbour decides they're going to build a building the same size and height, your walls will be touching?
This is a common situation across all municipalities across the entire nation. So often someone is first and then the subsequent developments have to work in around that.
So you could be built out in the future because you've chosen to go to the boundary?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And there's issues around parking and right-of-way and the driveway. What impact, like you're building a driveway that's suitable for your development, how do you think that will impact on the neighbours, and is there a way of helping their amenity with that driveway somehow?
Definitely. I just want to point out that the current right-of-way does not exist on the St Vincent de Paul title. What is actually being proposed is an additional right-of-way extending the width of the right-of-way. Currently, a lot of people are driving over the portion of land anyway, so we're going to make it official that it is an official right-of-way continuing into the future, protecting those rights, but actually extending those rights.
That's currently not a right-of-way, did you say?
Only on one lot, not the St Vincent de Paul lot, so we're actually extending it. We're offering them an additional right-of-way.
That means there'll be more space to drive
Correct.
out?
Yeah, legally more space.
that you finished?
For now, yes.
Thank you. So we'll go in order of hands raised. Councillor Lohberger.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for coming in, and thanks for the work you guys do. It is an important area. I think we're all well aware of the pressing need for these sort of buildings. I did just want to talk to you about height. You described height as subjective. There's been quite a bit of evidence produced disputing how high this building is, given that it's presented in the papers as a 5-storey building, and yet quite a few of the diagrams show it actually looks like a 6-storey building from Argyle Street, which is its main frontage. It is an Argyle Street block. Can you clear up how tall this building actually is?
Yeah, it's a challenging question to answer, and I'll explain why. Height is measured from the natural ground. Over time, when properties are developed, natural ground is actually subjective as to where it was originally. And because this is a contoured site, and that's why we've got a step back from Argyle Street for the actual height, mid-site, essentially, that's when the height goes up. So the 6 stories actually includes the basement car park as well. So it's 5 stories above what would have been natural ground at that point in time. There is a project in the rear street that has recently been approved, and it's the same height. Now, it's not yet been built and the residents haven't experienced that visual in that space, but it will be coming. So it's in keeping with the progression of the density for the area.
Sure. So,
Sorry, can I?
Yeah, I can't give you the exact address. It's in Church Street. Yeah.
so from Argyle Street, do you have an actual height of the building from the Argyle Street side? We've been given a height for the 5-storey.
The height changes, so you'd actually need to look at the elevations to understand exactly where the height
I'm
is.
just looking at the maps that have been provided, and it does show the ground level under it. And on the Argyle Street side, it does appear that the ground level is at the base of is quite close to the bottom of the basement, if not at the bottom of the basement. I just feel like this is a 6-storey building from Argyle Street, which is where the paperwork points us to, because that is the address. And it is a 5-storey building from Church Street. Would that be a more sort of an accurate description?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. And next we have Lord Mayor.
Quickly following on from that one, so is there excavation for the ground floor car park?
We are trying to, yes and no. Okay, so there will be some excavation for footings. However, we are trying to maintain the current slab structure and utilise that and go up. So there won't be any further extension to the building once it's completed.
Does that mean though that we're going to have sort of car park at the
No, it's inside.
inside, but sort of?
So it's behind a roller door. You won't see it from the street. We're still maintaining the retail. So the retail will be staying exactly as it is. So when Souvenirs comes back, they'll be doing the same operation. They've got offices above. They'll be maintaining those same offices again. So the usage for that doesn't change at all. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just sort of looking at the Urban Design Advisory Panel's report. Did you, were you offered the opportunity for a pre-application meeting with the Urban Design Advisory Panel?
It's not so much offered. You've got to request it, and I'm unsure whether that occurred with the architect. I've actually come onto the project since then. However, I will point out that the draft conditions that are put forward for the project we set, which is actually to provide a montage and colour scheme and so forth, it has to yet be approved by council. So it's not locked and loaded. It's yet to be assessed.
Right. But your architect didn't say we should.
I couldn't say. I'll come on the project afterwards, so I don't want to give you an inaccurate.
Okay. So some of those suggestions they've made around changing the sort of the solid colour of the palette of the building, you're happy for that to be in the conditions?
That's still in the conditions. Yeah, we're happy for that.
And
it's a natural process for projects.
And the greening requests as well, there was some suggestions?
So the landscape drawings still need to be submitted and approved. So that is, again, normal part of conditions that hasn't yet occurred.
Right, so, but if they were included some of the Urban Design Advisory Panel's greening suggestions?
We'd certainly be open to that conversation, yeah. We want to provide a quality project that provides amenity.
Just on the cost of development issue, do you know whether this has has Housing Tasmania approved the funding of this proposal, or given some indication of whether they're willing to fund it? Or?
Yes, absolutely. So they have assessed the design quite strongly from a social perspective for its amenity that it provides. That's been ongoing, and they're very happy with where we've landed. So the letter of offer has been signed between the parties. There's obviously a subject to development approval, and I just wanted to also say that the timing of development approval, because it is attached to the Housing Affordability Future Fund, is quite critical as well.
And they've paid for it, they're willing to cover the cost in full of the...
Yeah, so Homes Tasmania actually administers the Housing Affordability Fund, so it's not Homes Tasmania.
Federal money, okay.
Yeah.
And have they given any indication of whether they might be willing to drop if you dropped a floor, how many units would you lose?
Well, if we drop a floor, we lose the amenity level.
I see the common areas and those, because they're quite small units, aren't they? So.
They're studios. They aren't designed to be your standard multi-residential. This is more like their studio. They're more like a hotel size setup, and that's because we're sitting in a commercial zone. We're not sitting in a residential zone.
My questions.
Thank you very much. Alderman Zuko.
Yeah, just in regards to UDAP, how much pre-application consultation was there with UDAP? From your architects? Pre-application discussions and with UDAP, because that's, when you're building these type of things, it's very important.
Yeah, so Hugh assures me that he had touched base with all surrounding neighbours and discussed the design with them. I guess I wasn't present at those meetings, so I don't want to say, it was an open consultation, or I don't want to make a false statement, especially respecting the people that are sitting here behind me. I believe that the meetings occurred, and I've been given assurance of such.
The other thing in the design, and I don't know the engineering component of it, was there any consideration in respect of also utilising the Argyle Street building that's already existing, and or potentially demolishing and completely rebuilding, and or potentially using that building there, as I said, subject to engineering?
Yes, so we're doing a partial demolition, which is the rear of the warehouse, and then we'll be building up for the residential. So the retail store will be retained and refurbished, as well as the offices above, be brought back up to energy efficiency.
Yeah. I'll rephrase the question. I'm talking about above the existing building. Were there any engineering
considerations?
Consideration given to potentially? Because I'm looking at the photo at the moment, and there are some very smart engineering ways of actually building over an existing property. Was that given consideration, which could have lowered the impact of the whole building overall?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. These setbacks required that the tower still was going to be set back, so there doesn't seem to be any major advantage in attempting to do that, but it also would have been a planning contention point.
I just wanted to ask you, if you mind, to talk a little bit more about the repercussions if the building was changed to 6 stories to 4 stories. You did mention briefly that it would have financial implications for the project. I'm just wondering if you could talk more on that.
Yeah. Look, if we start with what it means to the residents, is we lose the communal laundry, we lose the communal garden, we lose the communal eating area, and an office, a study room up the top. So that's something that all of our sites have got across Australia, and we're proud to have those. It creates a space of home, and it creates a space for the residents to mingle. And often when we have events, it may be a birthday for someone that's over the age of 55, and they can have it up there. It creates a good community up the top. And if we were to lose that and put laundries inside the units, then they lose quite a substantial amount of space to put a laundry in there. So we also have some of the heating systems up on the communal area that we need to be aware of where we would put them if we were to make changes to that top floor.
I just want to add to that too. I suppose it would also be a comment that someone can say, well, why not take out one of the middle levels and to speak to that when it comes to construction, be able to provide the communal areas which have a zero return. That is, clients that will be coming into here are renting, and it's that rent that is helping to support the operations. So that is feasible for St Vincent Hall to be able to provide these services. So when we take out a level of those rents, it starts to really hit that teetering of whether it can be done or not.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Yes, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, privacy, I'm just looking at all the renders here and all the images and pictures, and to me, there seems to be a very, very clear line of sight, no matter what elevation you're on, looking pretty much straight down. And it would appear to me that the residents would be losing privacy from this. I mean, how you mentioned that it's been addressed how that wouldn't happen. I really fail to see from the information that's been provided here that you cannot virtually look straight down.
We can't eliminate all overlooking. It has been orientated to minimise most of it, especially the immediate neighbours. You'll note that the units are orientated north and west, and that's really to try and avoid as many neighbours as possible, as well as to capture the views and increase the amenity of the building itself so that it functions well. I also want to point out that I live in a single-storey house and I can see my neighbour's backyard. It's unavoidable to some degree, so I would like to see a building that has been designed to completely avoid this issue. I think it's near impossible.
So there is, nevertheless, from all angles, from all elevations, there is clear visibility to the neighbour's backyard.
Not from all apartments.
I know from all elevations, from the rooftop area. And
the rooftop communal areas, their orientation has been designed so that they actually look out, so that they don't actually look down onto the residences surrounding them.
Thank you, Chair.
Any further questions? No? That's great. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. And we've just had some feedback as well, just with regards to aldermen and councillors. Could you please speak into your microphone as well as close as you can, because people cannot hear your questions.
We have a debate, don't we?
Yes.
Look,
I'll open it up for discussion. Yes.
the first question I'd like to just double check is this expires tomorrow, correct? Just double check if it does.
Chair, yes, that's correct.
Look, I just want to flag to all elected members right at this point in time what I've read thus far, and especially UDAP. As everyone knows, I'm always supportive of increased density. I've been an advocate of increased density. I read the UDAP report, and the UDAP report to me is very, very concerning. I don't want to read the whole lot of it. I just want to read the conclusion. In concluding, the panel estimated that many of the issues raised would have been more beneficial to the applicant at pre-application stage, and want to remind the applicants and through their client that the value of pre-application sessions. Look, I just want to let everybody know I'm associated with the development that will be coming to council very, very shortly, and I know those architects have worked constantly with UDAP. When we have these types of developments, it's very important to work with UDAP. I would like to. I'm not going to move it. Don't want you to take it on board now, Madam Chair, but I'm going to move for a slight deferral on the basis that the staff seek from the developers whether they'll give us an extension of time, because I don't want to refuse this. I'm not one for refusing applications like this, but I believe that some more rethink and work on this could actually bring in a far better development, especially the concerns raised. I look at the photo montage which shows this big bulk at the rear, and I understand there's setbacks and everything that need to be taken into consideration, but I look at this site where it could be far better use of the whole overall site, especially if engineering solutions could be found to also include the Argyle Street building within the scope of this building, whether it be communal spaces or otherwise. And there are potential engineering solutions which could lessen the impact of height and that. I do raise concerns that there is actually a shortage of 36 car parks on the site, which is actually quite considerable. But understanding the potential nature of the clients of this particular building, I don't think that is hugely an issue. It is an issue if it had been a standard development. So I'm going to foreshadow a deferral for a short time for the officers to speak to the developers on whether or not they'll give an extension of time. It's been done before. They can speak to the developers. If they give us an extension of time, we don't refuse it. It'll probably come back with some of the suggestions that some of the elected members might have. So that's where I stand at this point in time.
Thank you very much, Alderman Zuko. It's probably an opportune time as well for us just to ask Choi to come along and...
we do have a Choi, okay. Very good.
And then maybe he could, as was suggested...
Chair, can I just
Yes, sure.
ask a question related to Alderman Zuko's concerns? The UDAP, many of the UDAP's issues, which seemed, compared to other UDAP concerns, from my perspective, were quite small. I mean, UDAP generally always raises concerns, don't they? But have some of their concerns been incorporated into the conditions?
Through you, Chair, yes they have, in particular the materials and colours. I think it is worth noting that UDAP have made a number of comments that probably are outside the issues that you are being called on to decide on tonight in terms of what's a discretion and what's not. So I think it's important that we bear that in mind when analysing the comments by the panel.
So from what I can read, UDAP's main concerns were suggestion around the appearance of bulk, and have asked for sort of that to be broken up with colour, form and materials, and that would be a condition of approval, that has to be approved, a different palette to break up that sense of bulk.
Through you, Chair, there is a condition requiring the subsequent approval of the colours and materials. From memory, that condition doesn't specify that it has to be broken up in any particular way, but I will just...
But potentially a condition could say reflective of UDAP's concern, like the issues raised in the UDAP report or something.
Can we just stop at that for a second? Through you, Chair. I'm just
Get back to
me.
Sorry.
Just the director will get back to you in a moment. Or would you
through
like to do
through
that
you,
now?
Chair.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, apologies, Lord Mayor. Proposed condition PLN S1, which is on page 240 of the agenda, is the condition requiring colours and materials, and below that, specifically the advice says, please review the comments of the UDAP panel meeting of the 24th of October when preparing the palette.
Okay. And the second main area that I picked up from UDAP was around the greening requests. So can more of that be included? Like how much of that has gone into the conditions? Because they requested some suggestions of tree plantings along the driveway and a few things like that. Have those been put in as conditions?
Through you, Chair. There is a proposed condition, PLN S4, on page 241, which talks about the landscaping. I understand that from the one of the UDAP concerns was about deep planting, and I'm not confident that would be able to be accommodated within the site, but to the extent that is possible, then we would expect that would occur as part of this condition process.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Just for a moment, we'll have Choi just go through his demonstration, if that's okay. Yes.
I just wanted to comment on this laneway and the access. Currently, there's car parking along the side of the St Vinny's building, and in the new side of the St Vinny's building, and in the new design, that would be part of the access. That would become shared, shared access, formalised.
Can we see, is there a picture of the current situation?
Well, there is.
You were talking about when the applicant was talking about a right of way for it being legal right of way.
There was a suggestion that they're going to lose some of that access, and I'm just trying to qualify that, because on page 336 of the whole document, there's the bins at the front, and then there's car parking along the edge. Yeah, well, there you go. Okay.
So we'll just let Troy go.
Oh, I see. Right.
Thank you.
That becomes access. And is that access to the car parking associated with the St Vinny's project, or do they still go through the driveway? Is the driveway just for the operation of the charity shop?
Through you, Chair, perhaps I can suggest that elected members look at the plans on pages 269 and 270, which show the vehicle movements and where the layout of the right-of-way. I will also note that there is a proposed condition for all vehicle manoeuvring access ways to be provided further detailed designs. So this is, I think we should take this as an indicative layout, but there's further work by the applicant if a permit was granted.
But I'm just trying to clarify, if that is the case, then it's the access for the new development, but it's also additional access for the residents at the end of that driveway. So,
through you, Chair, yes, I understood from the comments from the applicant's team that that land would then formally be able to be used by other parties.
Ask how could we prevent that just becoming another car park? Can that be a condition?
That would be contrary to if these plans were approved as part of the permit, they are incorporated through the general condition, and then as well as that as a requirement, we would have a subsequent bundle of detailed designs which would articulate that these are for traffic movements rather than parking.
Yeah, okay. So you worry that sometime, a few years later down the track, it could end up becoming
Any further questions?
Through Chair, perhaps Troy, if you could show us the building from a number of angles.
how far is the back building from the commercial site next door, the 208?
Top of it. Yeah. Got solar panels on the roof of the workshop.
Okay, so it's not abutting that; it's a bit below it, and it's on that angle. So what's overshadowing impact on those solar panels? Have we got that? Have we got that button?
So through Chair, so the red is the proposed building shadows, and the greens are the existing building. So we're looking here in mid-time, in June 21st, starting from 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 noon. I'll just turn that off so you got an idea.
So green is existing.
Green is
additional.
existing, but also there is also existing building that is not showing at the moment. The shadow of that existing building from the side. So 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock.
Are there any further questions from elected members for Troy? Yes, Councillor Loberg.
Just got a few questions about height for the director. We've heard from a number of the respondents and actually from the proponent that the building is actually 6 stories high from Argyle Street. The address of the application is for Argyle Street. The building's far closer to Argyle Street than Church Street. I'm just wondering how it is that we've been presented in our papers with a building that's 5 stories high.
Sorry, I'll just double check the. Through you, Chair, can I just clarify? Are you asking about the introductory remarks in the?
Just all the way through. We're dealing with a 5-storey building when the heights come up, and I think the height we were given was 18.76 metres, but clearly it's 6 stories from the main frontage. I'm just wondering how it is that we found ourselves assessing a 5-storey building when in fact there's been acknowledgement across the board that it is actually a 6-storey building on the main frontage.
Through you, Chair, I guess it depends whether you take the basement level as an additional level. That's obviously being cut in to a certain extent, and then the 5 levels on top of that. So if you call that 5 versus 6, there was no effort to be confusing in the report. So my apologies if that was the case. And we've certainly done the height assessment by reference to the documents provided as part of the application that everybody's able to see in terms of how the building sits in the broader landscape.
My sort of related question is about the actual meterage height. That 18.76 metres that we've been given, which end of the building is that measured from? Is it from the Argyle Street side or from the Church Street side? Because there's sort of a difference of around about a storey.
Perhaps through your chair, I'll just locate that document while we...
Joy can also show us.
Yes. Well, actually, that's quite a good point. Joy, are you able to show the various heights at various points of the building?
Not at the moment. It's missing the function. It's in the other space. I will be able to, but it's not showing it out for me at the moment.
And also, through your chair, the committee recently approved a development on an almost adjacent site. Are you able to switch that one on as well, Troy?
Yes. So through your chair, I've checked the drawings. So roughly the roof height of Church Street development is about 53, and this one's about around 55.
55, what's that? No, it's only 18 metres, isn't it? 50.
RL. We're talking about RL, so...
15, not...
No, so we're talking about relative level, so
yes.
from 0,
right.
from sea level. So if you measure from sea level, that's at 52 metres. This is at 55 metres. So there's a difference of 3 metres, put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's not 55 metres high.
No, but yeah.
Above sea level. Yeah.
RL,
Yeah.
Because you don't get confused with which ground level you're measuring from. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Are there any further questions?
So the setback, I guess, can we sort of just literally walk up the walk up the footpath?
Do that first, please?
In Argyle Street, and get a feel from the street as you walk up Argyle as well. Maybe on the other side of the street. Yeah, sorry.
And the setback from the front part of the building conforms, that's the required setback, and that can only be 2 stories at the front. Just in reference to Alderman Zuko's comments, so that's the acceptable solution, 2 stories, or is that performance, and you can't get performance criteria on that front part of the building? With me?
Sorry, I apologise. Could you please repeat?
That's okay, you're forgiven. The two stories at the front, that's the acceptable solution, and the setback is what's required under the planning scheme. So you couldn't have 3 stories at the front. It has to comply, it needs to be 2.
Through your chair, just to clarify, the 15 metres is part of the acceptable solution. So if the applicant walks up, has a building that's 15 metres or less, then it ticks that box and we don't need to consider any further. It is wrong to say that if it's in excess of the 15 metres, then it's in breach of the planning scheme.
No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the front part of the building, the existing op shop, could that be an extra story?
Through your chair, possibly, yes.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to ask Joy for anything that you'd like to see?
Can I just check, we had a representation about overshadowing of some of the backyards in Warwick Street and concern that that information hadn't been provided. Can we just check what the overshadowing in the sort of more, the Warwick Street properties?
Chair, perhaps if I can assist, there is, as part of the height assessment, a requirement to consider overshadowing of public space, but the planning scheme does not call up an assessment of overshadowing on private property.
In the commercial zone, is that right? Yeah, and I'm just interested because I didn't think it was as close. So that's all green, isn't it? Oh, that's the
Green are the existing building.
It's over 3 o'clock. Just have a look at that.
So if I turn that off, yeah, the existing building.
It doesn't. Oh, it does get to Warwick Street, or?
It sits on the green in the front, so no different.
So it doesn't overshadow anything more than.
All these properties, like for those things, yes, okay. They all be overshadowed at the moment as an existing condition by the existing building.
Okay.
So there's not any additional overshadowing from the proposal? A little bit?
Well, a little bit on all that, if you see those gaps directly next to it.
Yeah, a very little bit, yeah. All right.
Are there any further questions for Choi? Anything else any other elected member would like to say? No? Any other questions for the Director? Yes, Councillor Elliott.
Yes, so I was just wondering, through you, Chair, to the Director, has this application, given it's for social housing, and I understand there's different provisions in the planning scheme, different thresholds and requirements for a social housing development, has this been assessed against a lower or a different threshold to if this was a private development?
Through you, Chair, the key difference here in terms of comparing a sort of non-social housing development and this one is in the parking assessment. I have checked, it's not in the papers tonight, so I apologise for that, but we have had robust discussions with earlier applications about the extent to which social housing has what parking demands they have. And the report does reference some correspondence from the Director of Communities, which indicates that they've done an analysis of other social housing projects, and the parking requirements are lesser than a sort of traditional dwelling proposal, and we have accepted that they've provided sufficient information to justify that.
Would you say that's the only point of difference in this application here? Because I recall one, I think, where it was a lesser open space requirement per unit. But I just want to make sure if there's any other points of difference where the parameters are set a bit lower or different.
Through you, Chair, you might be thinking of the density assessment in residential zones, which say that you can have a higher density, so more dwellings on a site, if it's for a particular need, such as social housing. So that's not the case here.
There's one in Sunnyside in Newtown, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, no, that is not applicable here because it's a different zone.
Right.
Sorry, just to clarify, it's a commercial zone, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, thank you.
Question of the Director. Just around the shape of the building, I mean, clearly that, one of the things that I think is reasonable design is the way it sort of doesn't use the entire block, in that it sort of has it has a diagonal element that seems to then lessen some of the overshadowing. If this came to us from a different proponent, could they actually fill that entire block at sort of 4 stories, like 3 metres less, but 4 stories, and it would be like literally the entire block is filled?
That is possible. I mean, it could be permitted if the height was a little bit lower but filled out more of the block. Then that is a potential outcome for a differently designed proposal.
And that could, in some ways, be even a bigger, even more bulkier, more overbearing kind of proposal.
Through Chair, yeah, potentially.
So, Chair, for the purpose of debate, I'll move the item as per the officer's recommendation.
Much so, no further discussions. I'll just put that. Or would you like to have more discussions? Sorry, yes, more debate. Sorry, can we just get back to the heights, if that's okay? The Director just wanted to say something.
If I can take elected members to page 279. Oops, is that the right one?
What that is, because for some reason I'm not seeing the PDF number.
Through the chair, I'm looking at the plan is reference DA 2.00. It's sort of halfway through, I guess, the plans, which are part of the application. Does that help you, Lord Mayor?
I think someone's given me the
printed copy. Old school.
I'm having trouble replicating the 18.76 when you calculate, but you can see the different levels of the basement and the different heights of the building. It does actually look like in spots it's more like 19 metres, but it's not too far off the height that's been given. Apologise, I don't have the specific analysis that the planner who did the assessment has done.
Thank you, Director. It was an unusual question. It's an unusual building.
By Councillor Harvey, and we're open to debate. Would anyone like to make any comments? Yes, Councillor Lohberger.
I'd just like to support the sentiments of Alderman Suko. I really don't want to vote against this building. I really don't. But there are some significant issues with quite a range of items, and I feel like I can't vote against it and I don't want to vote for it. So I think Alderman Zuko's solution is one that works for me at this stage.
So would you like to move a procedural motion right now, or would you follow the foreshadowed once we voted? Yes, no worries.
I don't want to shut down debate. I never like to shut down debate. I think debate should occur.
Councillor Kelly was next, yes.
Thank you, Chair. Look, this whole application to me, it's not only pushing the geographical boundaries on the whole issue right to the actual boundary, but I mean, how many more things? There's the height, there's the bulk, there's vehicle movement problems, there's car parking on site deficiencies, there's already massive off-street car parking outside on the streets, it's big problems. There's a loss of privacy, there's overshadowing on gardens, vegetable patches, solar panels. There seems to be a perceived lack of consultation with UDAP and the actual architects. Clearly there's been a lack of consultation there. You know, I'm all for development, I'm a developer, but to me this is just so deficient in so many areas that it's just lacks, and in all consciousness could not support. Look, I'll agree with Councillor Lohberger and Alderman Zugo with going back and seeing if there's something we just cannot do that's better here. These people, we've got neighbours here, they're a community, they've been here for over 30 years, some of these people, really good citizens, ratepayers, and they've got a community here. And to have, sure, and they're being reasonable, they're not saying don't go ahead with this, they fully support it, they're being reasonable. They're saying, look, reduce the height by the 2 levels. They're coming up with alternative solutions. And I think in the spirit of what they want, in the spirit of what we need with social housing, I think really we can do much, much better than this. And I support the going back to further consultation in a hope, and hopefully there can be some resolution in the way forward with this. Thank you, Chair.
Lord Mayor and then Councillor Elliott.
Thank you. Look, I want to thank the residents for raising the issues, and I think some of those can be addressed in the conditions, and I note that I always look at UDAP's full report, and they always would like more developers to come to them pre-application, but compared to some of the other proposals that people have supported recently, this UDAP report is not scathing, and I think all of the concerns, most of the concerns UDAP's raised can be addressed through conditions. I'm going to support this project because I know that the Housing Future Fund is rapidly being used up, and we currently have almost no proposals that are ready to go in Hobart, apart from this one, and it's really important. I've spoken to the head of Housing Tasmania, and I know that inner city projects always cost more and they generally will fall to the bottom of the list. We will not get social and affordable housing in the city unless we're willing to kind of provide some flexibility. The flexibility we're being asked to accommodate here is, again, just from my experience on council, 3 metres in this location where we're looking to develop more growth in Hobart. 4, 5, 6 stories is exactly the kind of projects we will be seeing in this part of Hobart in the coming years. I like the fact that they have not used the entire block. The evidence shows us, contrary to what we have heard, that there is no overshadowing of gardens, and even the solar panels have been given some room with the sort of setting back of the property from the sort of western sun, which I think demonstrates sensitivity to the community, and I think that's a pretty good outcome. All things considered, I mean, again, this is inner city. There will be some change in the inner city. This is such important development for housing and homelessness. We have a housing crisis. This sends exactly the wrong message to developers, to housing funders, to the social sector, to people who are experiencing homelessness, that we are going to basically say no to this because of a few quite limited concerns. I don't think there's anything additional that that the deferral will achieve. The staff have worked to put many of the issues into the conditions, and it's basically, I think the delay is really just not going to achieve a great deal. Either it'll be rejection or not. I mean, you can't lose a complete. Unfortunately, you can't lose a complete floor here without the whole project falling over, and it won't be funded. It's not viable for Housing Tasmania. There are other communities, other cities, other councils that want these kind of developments. There is plenty of demand for this. If it doesn't stack up, it will not be funded, it will not happen, and we will not have housing, new well-designed housing, supported housing in the city of Hobart for women over 50. So this is one of those moments where I think we do have to actually get behind something. It's been recommended for approval by our officers. It's got strong conditions in there. We can add extra conditions. But to not approve this because basically of an extra 3 metres of height is the only reason. Everything else in here, I think, has been well addressed, and it really is a flimsy reason for refusal just on the basis of 3 metres over the current limits, but recognising that in our future Central Hobart plan, these kind of developments is exactly the kind of heights we're looking at. We're not wanting 10-storey, 12-storey in this part of Hobart, but we do want 4, 5, 6 storeys because this is our future growth area under our Central Hobart plan. So I'd really encourage everyone to really think about whether this has got the strong reasons for refusal and think about supporting it.
Thank you very much. Next was Councillor Elliott.
Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Of course, appreciate and recognise the need for housing, especially of this kind, and also appreciate the finance pressures in terms of funding being available. But from my perspective, I just find this application, there's too many things that are awkward and could be improved from my perspective. I think I'm hopeful that there might be an uptake of the opportunity to defer the application and work further on a design, because I think it's a lost opportunity to have that frontage not explored further and add some more capacity to the front of Argyle Street. I also think also am troubled by the the right-of-way and the traffic. I think I read, and I might have read it wrong, but I think it was like 500 vehicle movements a day along the right-of-way, which is really quite an extraordinary number. And just envisaging what that would look like in real terms, I think would be problematic. Overall, I think there's so much scope to rework the design so that the right-of-way is less of an issue, that it has its own direct street access. And I really don't think that actually that front building on Argyle Street is that precious. Personally, I would like to see the whole site reconsidered from scratch rather than keeping that white at the front. In 20 years, 30 years' time, I'm sure that that street will have many more buildings of, you know, the 4 or 5 floors level. But at this point in time, it doesn't, and it is glaring, and the bulk does stand out. And I do feel for the amenity of the neighbours, because there's just so many aspects of this development for me that are awkward, and I think there's opportunities to make it better and make it work. So we do end up with this housing, and we do have a compromise on design and a smarter design that doesn't have that level of awkwardness, because it's jutted in, or it's like shoved into this sort of back area, and it's got these dual accesses, and it just feels really clunky from my perspective. So I'll be supporting deferral, and if not, sadly voting against. Thank you very
much. Alderman Zuko and then Alderman Bloomfield.
Look, I just want to reiterate, this has happened actually before, where a redesign came in and we got a vast improvement on the Movenpick site, which was going to be 63 metres. We actually deferred the item to get an extension of time from the developer. The developer agreed on that extension of time and redesigned that Movenpick site to 58 metres. What was ironic is on the redesign, there was going to be about 160 rooms or something like that. On the redesign, on the first design was going to be about 160 odd rooms. On the redesign, they got an extra 20 rooms. So they reduced the height level, totally redesigned it, and yes, they went down one more level as well. So on redesigns and rethinks, sometimes you can actually come up with a better solution. I am not looking at refusing this at this point in time. I'm looking at whether or not something better can come forward. If I had to, at the end of the day, I will vote against it, because there are a number of issues in the report. I don't want to go through them all, and in particular UDAP. As I said, I know how UDAP works. They're an organisation, they're a group of people that are happy to sit down, not just once, but as many times as you need to go through to try and bring the best development forward. Height is not one of their biggest issues. Their issues come a long way through design, and looking at this design here, I think utilisation of the whole site will deliver far better. And I hope that the elected members will given an opportunity to speak to the proponent. All we need is the proponent to give us the extension of time, and they can go and maybe redesign and listen to what's been said by the members of the public and the elected members.
Look, the whole point of council chamber is listening to the community, and that's why we're here. The fact that this is even at the table is because of so many people who haven't been listened to by the developers, which is disappointing. It shouldn't have come to this. We shouldn't have had that many deputations, because they should have actually been included in the process. So, and I dislike too being told, well, it's either this way or it doesn't happen, is also really poor planning too. There's always a way forward. We don't just go, well, if we don't get our way here, that's it. That's just not how it works. I dislike seeing business livelihoods being compromised. I dislike seeing people telling me that they're not being heard. And I honestly think that we've got to, establish the right way forward, which is go back, talk, discuss, and come back with something better. So I'll be agreeing with what.
Thank you very much. Just to ask you a question, Director, what changes can be made if it is deferred? So we've only got that one day, it's tomorrow, I suppose, is that correct?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, if there was to be a deferral, then there would need to be an extension provided by the applicant. Otherwise, the application would be at risk of expiring, and the consequences of that are that an appeal could be made to the tribunal, and the council could be liable for costs. The changes that could be made if it is deferred are relatively minor. So if there are going to be significant changes, for example, redesigning the very front building or changes out the back, then that would be a new application. The tribunal has, well, actually the Supreme Court has indicated that there's really not much you can do to tweak an application and then re-advertise. They would have to start again.
So just to confirm it, because it's been approved and it'd go to appeal, would we be able to defend it?
Yeah, yes, Chair. I'm confident in the assessment that's been done.
Great, thank you. Alderman Zuko, did you have?
Yeah, look, I'm not seeking to give dispensation to the officers to make a decision on this. I'm actually seeking a deferral so that the officers speak to the proponents this evening and come back to us. That's exactly what we did that night, and I think we can defer it until such time we get an answer. If the proponents come back and say no, we won't extend it, then we'll sit back down and make a decision on it. If they do accept for an extension, then we'll decide on the extension. We've done this before.
Councillor Kitsos was first.
Just on process, before Councillor Kitsos speaks on the substantive matter, I'm just bamboozled by this proposal. When would we meet again, Alderman Zurko? We can't reconvene the planning committee tomorrow, can we?
No.
Oh, so it's
actually deferring it for the moment for our officers to go and speak to the proponents now. We've done this before. It's been done before. If Mr. Noy was here, he'll confirm this.
that was deferred for a week, Alderman Zurko, with Movenpick. It was.
Lord Mayor, I assure you, the night we made the decision, we actually deferred it that night, and Mr. Noy came back and gave us a written letter from the proponents on the night.
Look, I'll just interject there. Excuse me, Alderman Zuko. Excuse me, Alderman Zuko. Excuse me, Alderman Zuko. I'll just interject there for a moment to take on board what you have said.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, our council officers will go and ask, just with regards to if that's possible tonight, to get a answer this evening. So should we just put this item to the side? Is that possible?
You've got a motion there,
yeah.
So can I just clarify? So if an extension is not granted and then the recommendation is lost, it's refused, and then it'll go to the appeal.
Okay.
I'm just thinking how this might end up if the extension is not given, what's the implications? And we defer it, but an extension is not given, then is delegated to you.
Through you, Chair. Yes, it is delegated to me, and I've reviewed the report, and I will approve the application.
Just give us a moment, and could you just let us know what was the answer with regards to deferral?
Chair, the applicant has indicated that due to the funding timing restrictions, that they're unable to grant an extension of time.
Thank you very much.
So if it's deferred, it goes to you. So look, just Chair, I'll be supporting this tonight. I think it's too important a development. I understand the concerns of the neighbours, and we've had this many times in this planning committee. We've had concerns for nearly all developments. That's why they're here. We get the controversial ones that come to the planning committee. But on the balance tonight, I will support the officer's recommendation. We either do it via vote tonight, or we go through the tribunal process if it's rejected, and there's a probability, I would say high probability, that we will lose. to the proponents, and then it gets approved anyway with costs coming to us? And who will represent us if we refuse this tonight?
Through you, Chair, we would normally be represented by our internal legal officers, but if the elected members refused against officer recommendation, then we would be required to engage external consultants to try and support the application.
And what's been the issue previously with trying to engage in external consultants to represent us?
Through you, Chair, it can be difficult to engage external consultants who will support the alternate view. This is not like the visitor accommodation situation where I can confidently say there will be no planners that support. I'm comfortable with the officer's assessment, but I can't say to you tonight that no other planner would be able to support a refusal. Is that helpful?
Yeah, it is, yeah. But I just feel that it might be challenging to mount a defence.
Chair, yeah, absolutely.
Councillor Gitsos, you had a comment to make as well.
Thank you,
Apologies.
Chair. That's okay. Look, I wanted to thank our community members for coming in today and telling us how this building will be affecting them and their community. But I think that this is a really valuable piece of infrastructure that is critically required in Hobart at the moment. And I'd point out that we don't have any deputations from the homeless women who this facility will help here tonight for obvious reasons. The fact that it's in commercial zoning is something that makes me want to approve this building, because it seems like the nature of this area is going to grow in its density and its height over time. I think we've seen clearly with our technology that there's no huge increase in overshadowing issues for the neighbours. To me, the alleyway and the access issues sound complex, and often we only understand these nuances when we live in that particular area. But also I'm hearing that right-of-way will be legalised, which it currently is not, and potentially the facility is upgraded, which may result in a better access if we can open our mind to the change. However, I would recommend that we do more consulting around how this shared access will be used to avoid future conflicts. To me, tonight this has come to planning because of the height issue associated with the building, and I don't think that it exceeds the planning scheme in excess of what's reasonable, and I think that compromise is worth it with the facilities that we will be able to offer these vulnerable women and to get them off the street. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Were there any further comments that elected members wanted to make? Yes, Lord Mayor.
Can I just ask about the Housing Future Fund and whether you're aware of any other applications going from City of Hobart area for new social housing funded by the federal government?
Through Chair, I'm not aware of any others, but don't feel like I'm properly qualified to give you that advice. Mr. Noy might have a deeper knowledge of that area. Mr. Noy.
Is he here? Oh, he's not here. Yeah. Look, I am of the understanding that there is very little that's come in from the City of Hobart, because these are more complex developments to implement, and the amount, the sort of per cost unit that the Housing Future Fund has for housing is better suited to the sort of developments on the edge of the city. So this is our opportunity as elected members to get a new development in Hobart, dealing with one of the most vulnerable groups of homelessness from this federal government's Housing Future Fund, and my understanding is that it is almost exhausted and that there may not be additional funds. So I think we have to think really carefully about whether the issues, most of which are being addressed in conditions or have been shown to actually not be as significant issues by the advice, are worth the rejection of new social housing.
Yes, Councillor Elliott.
I just wanted to confirm or clarify. I just want to make sure that from a planning perspective, funding streams and timeframes and the need for housing is actually irrelevant under what we consider as a planning authority, is it
Through
not?
Chair, yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yes, Alderman Bloomfield.
I've just got one question. How come it's only 1 day to decision? How come this has come 1 day before?
Director.
Through you, Chair, there is a statutory time frame of 42 days, which sounds like a long time, but it's actually not possible to get any application to committee within that 42 days without an extension of time, something that we are actively pursuing with the state government. So with the agenda time frames, so we have to sort of count back from the expiry date and try and get it on to the agenda. Of course, there's the 14-day advertising period. So the steps in the planning process all add up pretty quickly.
Just that there are plenty of applications we've handled here that have not been 1 day. So I'm just wondering, why is this one 1 day? Is there a particular reason?
Director.
Through you, Chair, no particular reason. That's just the way that the extension date, I'm assuming there would have been an extension for this one, has fallen. There's nothing particularly planned about that, I guess.
Although I might add just a comment that during my time on council, we have had applications before that have had just that 1 day.
I'm not saying it's unusual.
Yeah.
I'm just, this could have been a much better outcome if we just had 7 days.
Are there any other comments elected members would like to make? No, I think I might just make a few comments, if that's okay. Elected members will note that there are strong conditions attached to this particular application, 24 to be precise, and there has been qualified advice from our officers to approve it. So when we talk about the 15-metre acceptable solution, that is just the acceptable solution. Then we move across to the performance criteria, under which on certain parts it has been approved. There is a 3.76 metre difference that we're talking about when we're talking about height. That just to make that a little bit more specific. While it is a beautiful idea in concept to defer this, I would like to also remind elected members that essentially it has no impact. And the reason why it will have no impact is because it will go across to our officer to be approved anyway, because it will fall to our officer. Is that correct? That's right. So whilst our hearts and our minds would perhaps like to defer it, and maybe prima facie on the face of it, it looks like a really beautiful idea, you deferring it or voting for a deferral really doesn't have any impact, just to be certain and clear on the process. I would like to thank all of our residents that have come today to express your points of view. Most certainly I and all of our elected members around the table do sincerely appreciate your perspectives and your views with regards to your issues with regards to this. It has been outlined tonight, very robustly might I add, that there are difference of opinions, and I'm glad that we're able to have those discussions. But we must also be practical about certain things. And when we're talking about a deferral, it is a nice idea, but it doesn't have actually any impact on how this will work out.
Just a point of order. There's no deferral motion on the case.
No, I said if.
There's no if either.
I don't accept your point of order, but thank you.
There's no if.
No, I said if it goes to that. Thank you
No,
very
I've heard
much.
of deferral.
Thank you very much, Alderman Zuko. Thank you very much, everybody, for your debate. I will now put that motion for approval. All of those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
All of those against?
No.
No. Let's go with a raise of hands. All those in favour? All those against? That motion is lost, so now we'll move to Alderman. Would you want, no? Didn't want to do a foreshadowed? Okay.
There's no foreshadow. My foreshadow was very clear. My foreshadowed motion was a deferral to seek advice from the proponent. We've got the advice.
Chair, if I can just assist the committee. So given that the approval motion did not succeed. There's currently no decision, so you'd need to put the refusal motion for the committee to have made a decision.
Put that motion then to refuse. Can somebody please move that?
I'll move the motion for refusal.
What are the reasons?
Councillor-
We need some reasons, please.
Yes, on planning grounds, what would that be? Councillor Elliott?
The vehicle access, the height, I haven't got the others in. Pardon? The car parking spaces.
Car parking spaces.
Yeah, the height, the car parking space, and the car parking deficit, and the right-of-way vehicle access.
So we're moving that this particular item be refused on those grounds as outlined by Councillor Elliott. All those in favour, say aye. Aye. All those against?
No.
No. Show of hands. All those in favour?
Councillor Elliott, Councillor Kelly, Alderman Bloomfield, Councillor Loberger.
All those against?
Councillor Kitsos, the Lord Mayor, Councillor Harvey, and the Deputy Lord Mayor. It's carried, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to everyone for being here, and that's been voted on. I'll just wait for individuals to leave. We're going to move on to the next motion, which will be item 6.2.3. We'll just wait for individuals to leave gallery, if that's okay, elected members. Thank you for your patience.
No worries.
Sandy Bay Road, page 48.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 6.2.3. We have deputations from the applicant, Fraser Reid from All Urban Planning, Keith Midson from Traffic, who's the traffic engineer, and also the owner, Stuart Davey-Sipkis, will be in attendance to answer any questions if required. You're all just here for questions?
Yes,
is that correct?
Thank you. Yes, just making it clear that we don't wish to say anything
further.
We're just here
Yep.
for questions.
Elected members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Yes, Lord Mayor.
Is there any all the big branding stuff? Does Downton Abbey ever sort of tone that down a bit in any locations, or is it that they have it?
I don't know. Stuart might be able to speak to that in a second, but in terms of the planning permit conditions that are recommended to actually tone down the signage, we don't oppose those. Yeah.
And what would that look like?
Would you please speak into your microphone?
Oh, what would that look? What does that look like to you?
Individuals online cannot hear.
I mean, what do you envisage that looks like?
Well, I think that the two main areas of the conditions are reducing to the larger signs down, the window signage, and I think toning down the intensity of the colours. Yeah.
Are there any other questions?
Oh, no, it's sort of not related. No, thank you.
No? Okay, can I have somebody please move the motion?
Yeah, I'll
We'll
move
open it. Thank you very much, Alderman Zuko. I'll just open that up for discussion. Any comments?
Oh,
Yes,
I
Lord
guess,
Mayor.
yeah, I'm a little bit bemused as to why the house next door was knocked down for this purpose, and then it didn't end up getting used. What was the...
Through you, Lord Mayor, through you, Chair, sorry. that was approved through an earlier application and will now be used as part of this site for vehicle movements and...
oh, okay.
Clearly wasn't a heritage property.
Yeah, no, it was not.
It was an old property though, wasn't it?
I've got a question.
Yes, Councillor
For
Loberger.
the Director, through you. I'm just interested in the proprietary engineering devices that are going to be used for stormwater retention. I'd just like to hear a little bit more about them.
Through you, Chair. My understanding is that means there'll be an off-the-shelf, if you like, product that will be used, which is tried and tested, and is our team is confident that it will be provide a reliable solution in these instances. Sometimes with stormwater detention, there are bespoke arrangements and designs created to try and address the needs of the site, but here they're using a fairly standard product.
So we're talking about detention basins.
Through Chair, yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions, comments?
No, well, just a comment. I think we have enough alcohol places in Hobart. And another one, it's recommended for approval.
Look, point of
Hang
order.
on, wait on.
Well, it's...
go on, point of order.
No, look, it's not about enough alcohol places. That doesn't come under the planning scheme.
What is your point of order, Alderman Zuko, on what grounds?
We're talking about planning here. Enough alcohol places doesn't come under planning.
Point of order is that comment is irrelevant?
Yes.
Okay, I'll accept that. Yes,
Okay,
thank
well,
you.
there's lots of alcohol places in Hobart.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey.
So
I've accepted Alderman Zuko's point of order.
Yep.
Any further questions?
Well, hang on.
Okay, sorry. Comments? Off you
So
go.
while I'm suggesting that we have multiple places in Hobart that also serve this function, there's no reason that has been discussed in the report or anything that would prevent another place selling alcohol, which we all know is probably the worst drug in the country. However, it's not relevant to the planning scheme, so I will support this tonight. But I just wanted to make a comment that I don't necessarily think we need more venues, selling alcohol.
I understand your sentiment. Thank you very much. We had a comment, I think the next hand up was it Councillor Kelly, did you want to say something? Or?
I did, Chair, yes. Thank you. Look, the point I'd like to make is a comment. It's Sandy Bay, that special little shopping precinct, which was so classy in the 70s and 80s. It's just, to my point of view, lost its way. You drive down there now, you're in this barrage of golden arch signs, the Coles tiled Armada street front fortress look about it, and now to have the big alcohol signs and all that. It's more of a commentary on the signage elements of the planning scheme that I think Sandy Bay has been let down with big time here, and it's something that we as council should be really looking at long and hard, especially in these special precincts that Sandy Bay has, and it's just a further trashing of that. I'm not opposed to any alcohol outlets, but...
it's not relevant to the planning scheme?
Yes, I'll accept that, thank you.
So I'd like to just underline those comments and thank you for your time. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Bill.
Excuse me, please do not talk across. The next person with their hand up was the Lord Mayor. Thank you, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. I am just curious about use and whether the planning scheme does address use at all, and actually whether use is something that's considered. Because normally use is part of the planning scheme, isn't it? So if you're wanting to change use, but this is just retail to retail, so there's no change of use.
Through you, Chair, there is an analysis of the use. It is discretionary. That's a paragraph 6.3 of this report. There's an assessment done against basically ensuring that the proposed use does comply with the provisions of the scheme, and we're satisfied that it is satisfactory in this location.
But as part of that, if you did have 20 bottle shops, it would be something that would be addressed in the use section?
Through Chair, no. There's no, to my knowledge, there's no part of the planning scheme which talks about
density of different
uses. I mean, there are ways that happens in various ways all over the place naturally. Camping stores, for example, all seem to be in the one spot, but there's no assessment that to be done. Is this use already being done on another adjacent or nearby location?
Are there any further comments? Yes, Alderman Bloomfield.
Look, having lived around that area a lot of my life, this is probably overall an improvement, because I can remember it being purity, I can remember it being...
chicken feed?
Yeah, chicken feed. Before that we had peanuts, the other one, we've had all of these different things there. And this one ultimately is actually just a little bit better than all the rest. So as much as it might not fit what we think this area should be, we've actually just probably in the process of improving it.
And that's what I was going to suggest to my colleague over here.
Thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you very much. I would just like to make a comment, if that's okay. I read just with regards to the parking about the motorbikes, and that it was possible to condition. Is that possible to do that? Could we condition that they are ensured that the parking does have that motorbike?
Yes, Chair, there are conditions which specifically name up the number of motorcycle parks. From memory, it's 2, and also the number of bicycle parks. So they are contained as specific conditions somewhere here.
Thank you. I believe you. Thank you very much. Were there any other further comments from elected members? No. We had Alderman Zuko, you moved this particular item, didn't you? Okay, so if there is not any further commentary, I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Let's leave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to the applicants. Thank you, Alderman Zuko. We'll now move on to item 6.1.2, and we have the applicant Lucas and Ross Mannering on behalf of the applicant, and they're only in attendance to answer questions if so required. Do elected members have any questions with regards to item 6.1.2?
I have one question, and that's looking at the agenda, and I might have missed it. I couldn't see a montage or an image of the 2 bus stops outside this building in Davey Street. It's not there. We only have the bird's eye view, and then a sketch of or a image of the proposed. Okay. Yep. So.
That's correct.
Okay. Why?
That we can only ask for information that we need to assess the application, and while montages are useful, they're not essential for the assessment. They've provided the detail that we need in the other documents that they've provided.
So that's good for you. So could I ask for information so I can assess the application as well? Because that was the only thing I was looking for. Like, what's it going to look like? Because these are sensational buildings, the old hospital, and it's been, these are very important buildings to Hobart, and putting a bus stop in front. And I support the bus stop. I'm going to vote for this, but I would have liked to have seen what it looks like with these bus shelters in front of that beautiful facade, which has been lovingly restored at great expense. And you have no answer?
Through Chair, that there's no statutory basis to ask for those documents. I do understand, because I personally find the photo montages very useful to put applications in context, but that is, I guess, an extra effort on the part of the applicant.
Sorry, was that a question you did want to ask the applicant? Could you provide us with that?
Do you have that image I could look at?
We haven't got a specific montage in front of the building, but the bus shelters that we're proposing to install are a standard bus shelter design that the Department of State Growth has developed. On their website there are some standard drawings of those bus shelters that show a 3D image.
Yeah, well, there's one of those. Sorry, through you, Chair. There is one of those in our papers tonight, but I just haven't seen what it will look like in front of the building, which is a significant building. But I'm sympathetic to people standing in the rain, though. Anyway, so I will support it. I just find it a bit disappointing that we haven't got the full information.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, I agree with Councillor Harvey that these are the 2 of the most magnificent buildings I've seen restored over years, and they are absolutely sensationally beautiful. I think the design of the actual structure and all that it's not too bad, but the thing that really disturbs me, and it's a question to our representatives here tonight, this huge 3-metre lollipop fluoro-coloured plastic fantastic tubular-like looking bus stop. Is there any chance that, in respect to this incredible heritage building and precinct, that could probably be toned down? It's on page 100 if any people want to look at it. And I don't know, I just thought maybe, is there some way that, to respect to heritage, we can do a little bit better than that?
I guess, yeah, the proposal there with the signage that you've got in the application is consistent with other signage around the CBD, so outside Franklin Square. It's trying to give a consistent theme across the network. I guess, yeah, I'm not in a position to speak on behalf of the department about what they might accept otherwise, but the premise of what's been proposed is trying to provide consistency around the network so that people are travelling on buses see consistent signage when they're looking to catch a bus.
Because, yeah, it is a signage issue, and signage is a big issue in any planning scheme. And look, it's just a recommendation that perhaps you may be able to consider something that might be more appropriate for a heritage area. And just because these signs are in other heritage areas, and two wrongs don't make a right, really, as far as I'm concerned. So it's just, I'm not here to criticise heavily, apart from this one item. The rest is good, and I appreciate it, and it's an elegant design, but I just think it lacks in this approach to this. And there's a fair skew, if you add the square metres that up, it's a fair whack. So if that could go forward as a recommendation or / suggestion, Chair.
Would you like to add something, Director, just with regards to?
Thank you, Chair. I understand your concerns, Councillor Kelly, but those signs are exempt on the basis of their statutory signs. So.
One more element of this, and that'll do me. Often we see manky stickers on the bus shelters. You know, they're stuck on with the timetable or whatever the messages are, and then they're half pulled off, and they just look a bit crap. Can we ensure that the glass, if it's got to be covered, it's covered in something that is maintained, and preferably we don't cover the glass, so you actually get a view through the bus shelter to the sandstone and the lovely wrought iron fence. Wrong colour, but nice wrought iron.
Through you, Chair, to the extent that the materials on the glass are timetables, that is part of the statutory process. My understanding is that that is exempt. To the extent that there are any other pictures or diagrams or maps, they would be classified as signs and would come back to you if it's in the Sullivan's Cove area, because almost nothing is exempt. So I don't think we can condition particular, stickiness of timetables.
Well, you know what I mean, though. They do look a bit grimy after a while. And anyway.
Thank you.
I'd like to think they're not grimy after a while. So
Can I have somebody just
clean
move this so we can move into
them.
debate, please? Could somebody move?
I'll move
So
it.
we have Councillor Lohberger, thank you. Are there any further comments, debates, discussions around this particular item? Yes,
I just wanted
Councillor
to make a
Lohberger.
quick
Yep.
comment and say I think it is important that the bus shelter is see-through. I was walking through the bus mall just early this afternoon, and there's quite a few very modern bus stops in there, some of which actually there's no back wall on part of them. There's a back wall on one section and not on the other. You can look straight through it. So I guess while proponents in the room, I just might make that comment that would be good to see. Thank you, Chair.
Further comments? No? Being none, I'll move that.
No, you don't move it. You
Sorry,
put it.
Put it.
Yep.
All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? No, carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we shall move back to item 6.1.1, 57 to 63 Macquarie Street, Hobart, partial change of use to shop and signage. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Any comments? Being none, we'll put that. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Carried unanimously, thank you. That's 6.2.1. Yep. We shall now move on to 6.2.1, 30 McRoby's Road, South Hobart. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. The outbuilding. Any comments? There being none, I shall put that. All those in favour say aye. No. Carried unanimously. 6.2.2 we've done. 6.2.3 we've also completed. And so now we'll move on to the report. 7.1 planning advised applications report. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Are there any comments?
I'll just ask through you whether the planning staff have, whether there's anything interesting.
Thank you, Councillor Lohberger.
Through you, Chair. 2 items that I draw elected members' attention to. First is item 8, 42 Newdigate Street. This is a cafe on the ground floor and something that's been used for non-residential purposes above ground floor, and they're trying to get approval for that permanently. It's in a residential zone, and in our view it technically doesn't comply with the planning scheme, so we will be recommending refusal. So it will be coming to elected members probably on the 5th of June. The applicants will clearly put a different point of view, and it may be the case that...
What street, sorry?
So that's the cafe on the corner of Newdigate and Lower Jordan, is it there? Or?
The old Providence cafe that's now something else.
They want
to put an office in there, which there has been an office in there for some time.
Upstairs?
Yeah, it is my understanding, but not necessarily approved, and they're trying to regularise that. Yep. So that's a technical refusal, if you like. The second item on that list is number 11, which is to Redchapel Avenue, which is a front fence that may look fairly innocuous, but is likely to get a heritage recommendation for refusal, so that will also be coming to you, not sure when at this stage. That was all. Thank you, Chair.
Might just make the comment that number 9 is the loss of 2 more rental apartments to visitor accommodation.
Lohberger, any further comments?
Through you, Chair, not that I'm aware of. I'm sorry, no.
And just a comment with question 9. Is it correct that whilst the property, those properties might have a visitor permit, they're still able to be used as residential without coming back to planning? Is that the case?
Through you, Chair, I would have to check the zoning, which I can do now. If it's in a residential zone, that's correct. If it's not in a residential zone, then that's
so they might have a permit, but it can still stay as a residential property, because that's permitted use. Is that right?
That depends on the zoning. So Ben just.
So if it's in the residential zone, that's the case, is it? Right.
Through you, Chair, the computer says it's in a residential zone, so residential use is no permit required. So yes,
they may have, they're applying for a permit, or they have received a permit, but that's no guarantee that it has been changed to short stay accommodation.
That's a good point. I'll amend my comment to say 2 rental units potentially.
Well, with a permit.
Yes, now that will potentially be lost, but not definitely. Thank you, Chair.
Any further comments, questions? No, being none, we'll put that. 7.1. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against? No. Carried unanimously. Thank you. 7.2, delegated decision report, planning. Can I have somebody move that? Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Any comments, questions?
Same question through you to staff about whether there's anything of note on that list.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair. Not really. Perhaps I could preempt your question, Councillor Lohberger, with respect to the 45 Smith Street visitor accommodation. That is one of the 6 that came to Council some time ago that was refused. So it's now the second of 6 that's been approved to be visitor accommodation. So there were 2 representations in relation to that, both primarily in relation to amenity impacts. But given the provisions in the scheme, we're still at the point where we feel we can approve, 2 out of 6. If we continue to get applications, then, we'll have to consider that against the relevant provisions. Yep.
Thank you.
That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Any further comments, questions? No, so we'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried unanimously. Okay, thank you. Responses to questions without notice.
So moved.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey. We'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Are there any questions without notice? Yes, Councillor Harvey.
What's the status of the bus stop prototype that was to be displayed at Mawson Place?
Through your chair, at Mawson's Place.
Any further questions? No, great. Thank you very much. We'll move to...
I move we go into the closed.
Move to go into the closed. Thank you, Councillor Harvey. Anyone?
Aye.
Those in favour? Anyone against? No.